There's a certain kind of exhaustion that comes from loving a dog whose body just won't cooperate. Welcome to The Dog Who Asked for More, a podcast for dog parents navigating the messy, complicated parts of life with dogs that no one really prepares you for. Each week, you'll hear honest, grounded conversations that help you better understand your dog, feel more confident in your choices, and strengthen the relationship you're building together. There's a particular kind of stress that settles in when your dog keeps getting sick, and you don't fully understand why. It's not dramatic, it's not loud, it's just this constant hum of uncertainty. You start second guessing everything: the food, the treats, the routine, your choices. And the hardest part is that from the outside, it doesn't always look like a crisis. It just looks like a sensitive stomach. But when you're living it every day, it starts to feel really heavy. I'm Em, a dog mom, retired vet tech turned dog trainer, and canine nutritionist who works with overwhelmed dog parents who love their dogs deeply but feel stuck, burned out, or unsure what their dog actually needs. And today we're looking at what happens when a dog's body keeps asking for more attention, more adjustments, more patience, and how living through that changes the way you see not just your dog, but every dog after that. Maya, when did you first realize that Loki's stomach issues weren't just a phase or something that he would maybe outgrow?
I realized when he had recurrent diarrhea from September onwards. Initially thought we had finished treating it and we'd put him on low dose antibiotics. We thought that was done and his gut issues were done and dealt with. And then September of 2023, he started having recurrent diarrhea again. And then in 2024, I brought him to the local veterinary emergency and he was having bloody diarrhea that night. His intestines and his colon were so badly inflamed that he was just not showing any signs of stopping. And our former veterinarian just was not very helpful. I tried to ask them for a referral to a specialist, maybe somebody who can help us diagnose what was going on with my dog. They just felt like we weren't at that point of like reaching out to a specialist yet. It wasn't until the night that I brought him into the emergency that they said, we're well past the point of management at this point. We need to find out what's going on with your dog. Recurrent diarrhea and bloody stools are definitely an indicator that something more is going on with him.
Tell me about what day-to-day life looked like during the worst bouts of it.
We just didn't sleep ever. Honestly, waking up with him every 2 to 3 hours throughout the night because he continuously was having diarrhea. Every 2 hours, he would wake up, he would start whining, and we would go out the door. When I realized that this was going to happen every 2-3 weeks or so, I started sleeping in my coat and my snow pants and my snow boots. Basically just slept in the hallway with him, and I had his slip leash on him pretty much the entire time. And anytime he would start whining or he would come and wake me up, we would run out the door. He would have diarrhea. It was just awful. My dog and I couldn't do anything fun. I couldn't take him to do the most basic things. Like I couldn't play with him. I couldn't get him to enjoy the snow because his fur was falling out in clumps all the time and his tolerance to the cold was just practically non-existent at that point. We lived day to day in survival mode. It was home, potty walks, and going to the veterinarian almost 3-4 times a month. And we had no answers.
Tell me about where the doubt and the second guessing showed up for you in this whole process.
I felt like I was going crazy. And I don't use that word lightly. I thought I was doing something to make my dog sick. I thought I wasn't doing enough for him to find answers. I Googled his symptoms. None of his symptoms matted up to one single diagnosis. I Googled all of his skin and coat issues. I was getting like 30 different issues, from thyroid conditions to really obscure conditions that aren't even dog relevant. They were more in line with wild animals. Nothing that was congruent with his skin and coat issues and the diarrhea. Nothing was adding up for me. And our former veterinarian was not much help either, because I would bring my dog in for a follow-up visit after going to the veterinary emergency like 2 or 3 times a month. I would circle back and say, well, what the hell is going on with my dog? They would either answer, I don't know, or we're not at the point of reaching out to a specialist to do a formal diagnosis yet. We did all kinds of tests. My dog was basically a lab rat for the first year that I had him. Going from our regular veterinarian to the emergency room, he got poked and prodded by every single doctor he met with absolutely no end in sight. We thought it might be Cushing's disease, Addison's disease. We did the ACTH stimulation test. We did so many exams. I put myself into debt. I was drowning with no answers, and I started to second guess whether or not I even had the ability to care for my dog. Not just the financial aspect of it, but it was the mental aspect of it too. I was running a business. My business was still in its infancy stage. I had just started it the week I got my dog, and I felt like I'd taken on too much. I was mentally just stretched so thin. I knew something needed to give. I didn't want to give up on this dog who had been rehomed multiple times, and I also didn't want to give up on my business because I needed some way to pay for all of these medical tests that my dog needed. I was really struggling. I had no answers. That felt like I had no support. I had nowhere to turn to. I had nobody that understood what I was going through with my dog. I would call my mom when we would go out in the middle of the night at like 3 o'clock in the morning, her time, and she would stay with me on the phone while my dog suffered through multiple bouts of diarrhea week after week.
It never ceases to surprise me how much we immediately start blaming ourselves. We start second guessing our choices. We start trying to figure out what maybe we did wrong, or maybe that we're missing something super obvious. And then it kind of all starts to fall into place from there, because you did what a lot of people won't do, which is you stuck with it. Not only did you advocate for your dog, but you went to multiple veterinarians, you took multiple tests, you looked at multiple different angles, you spent a lot of money, and a lot of people just give up and just deal with it at that point, or rehome the dog. Those are things that actually happen, and it's sad, but it's also unsurprising, especially when you're going through something that is mentally and emotionally and physically exhausting. Tell me a little bit about, after you've gone through all of this chaos with him, when things started to turn around, and what surprised you the most when it started to feel like you had answered.
I noticed a change in Loki in April of 2024. After almost a year of struggling with no answers for him, I brought him to a specialist in Boulder, Colorado, and they were about to do an abdominal ultrasound for him. And the specialist was looking through his entire medical history, and she came in halfway through the procedure and asked me if they could run one more blood test, and said, I have this feeling, just can you go with me for this? And I was like, sure. At this point, what I have already spent so much money and time, just do whatever you have to. When she came back and confirmed her hypothesis that it was a thyroid issue, we got him on medications, and I immediately noticed a change. Like almost 2 days after we started his thyroid supplementation, he was a completely different dog. My dog used to get tired from a 20-minute walk, which is not at all like what huskies are. You've seen the husky videos where they're like running around, they like take themselves out for walks, and they're like active dogs. They're working dog breeds. And my dog would get tired from a 20-minute walk. 2 days after we started his thyroid medication, he actually did a 45-minute walk. And it was not just because he was feeling some relief from the antibiotics after having diarrhea. It was genuine energy that he had because we started addressing the root cause of some of his problems. And it was not just management of symptoms. It was real answers that we had gotten from the specialist. From end of April to end of May, I had a completely different dog. Couldn't recognize the dog that was in front of me because I could take him to the park, and he actually had energy to play. I started being able to work with him, and I started being able to train him to do different things. And he had the mental clarity and the physical aptitude to like actually follow through and do some of the things that I was telling him to do. I took him to the park one day, and he did not want to stop playing. That was the first day that he went for a 90-minute walk after he played. And I could not believe that this was the same dog. If I had not witnessed it myself, if I didn't live with this dog myself, I would not have known that it was the exact same dog that was.
It's wild what the right diagnosis and medication combination care, all that can do for a dog. It can change in just a few days, even a few weeks. So I love that he has been able to revitalize himself and have a better quality of life. Everything that you have done for Loki is going to stay with you permanently
Yeah.
because you went through a lot of trauma when you were going through this, and that kind of stuff sticks. But as a professional, you care for other people's dogs. So do you ever notice stomach or digestive issues more than people talk about or mention to you?
Yeah, definitely. Currently have two clients with two very different issues. I have one client whose dog is still dealing with occasional loose stools, not to the degree that Loki and I were dealing with, but every once in a while he'll have a couple days where he's having diarrhea like stools. And then another dog that I work with on a weekly basis, she is struggling to keep her weight on. So different ends of that spectrum. Gut issues are so prevalent in dogs today that I've noticed anyways. It's a very small sample size, but one thing I will say is that gut issues do have such a big tie to how the dog reacts to the outside world. When Loki was dealing with his gut issues, he was nervous. He was constantly seeking reassurance from me. He was not like a very confident dog. And part of it was that he couldn't focus on what I was asking him to do because there was so much background noise going on with his gut issues. Once we cleared that up, I was able to get him to do all kinds of things. I was able to get him to focus on playing with me. I was able to get him to focus on going for longer walks, 5-mile hikes, all kinds of things. I've noticed with the two clients that I mentioned, one of them struggles extremely with the environment that he lives in, especially on the days that he's got gut issues. He is so nervous around sounds that you and I would be used to if we lived in the city because we're humans and our world is built for humans, but it's not built for dogs that are nervous, and especially not for dogs that have nervous system issues and they've also got gut issues. So it kind of compounds into this big problem. You don't know if the gut issues are because of the environment or if the environment influences whether the dog has gut issues. You know, it's like the chicken before the egg or the egg before chicken kind of situation at that point.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And that is why I am always preaching we need to look at the nutrition and we need to look at how it's affecting behavior because there are so many dogs that are quietly living uncomfortably that has just been written off as that's how the dog is. But if they would look a little bit further into it, maybe it's pain, maybe it's diet, maybe it actually is anxiety and they need medication. There's so many things that we could get curious about.
I got tired of my former veterinarian saying, maybe Loki just has stress colitis. He's just an anxious dog. And I was like, stress colitis does not bring on the kind of issues that I'm seeing with Loki. If that were the case, anti-anxiety medications would be able to manage it long term. We did try that for a while because she said it was stress colitis. And if that really were the case, like anti-anxiety medications would have been able to solve my issues, but they didn't. It's so frustrating when you have a medical professional who keeps doubting you. And it kind of felt like to me, like I was overly paranoid about my dog's health. I got the distinct feeling from my veterinarian that she was getting exasperated with the fact that I kept bringing my dog back every 2 weeks to get him checked out. And I almost felt like she was accusing me of either making him sick deliberately or like I was not happy with the results that I was getting from one doctor. So I was going to all these different doctors, like I was doctor shopping. It's something that I had to deal with when I was getting help for my own physical health. And I've had to advocate for my own physical and mental well-being with human doctors. And I kept getting dismissed and being told that it was just in my head or it was just allergies or all kinds of just dismissive things, and being told that yes, there is something really wrong with your dog. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. It gave me this feeling of relief. Like I was just, I didn't feel so heavy all the time after we got the answers that I was looking for Loki. It finally felt like a big piece of my dog's life was just given back to him. Our new veterinarian is fantastic. He helps me manage our day-to-day life so much easier. He got us on the right medications, especially last year when some of his gut issues came back. And the combination of medications that he's on is working so well for us now. I'm actually able to take Loki to do more fun things. He can go to the park. He can go hiking. The first time that he finished a 6-mile hike that we went on, it was fantastic. I was so happy and I was so proud of him.
It feels like it either goes one of two ways with vets or human doctors. Either you're constantly chasing a new solution all the time, or something's wrong with you. You're crazy, or you're putting too much into it. You're seeing things, you're predicting outcomes that aren't actually accurate, whatever you want to say. It feels like it's never just, here's the path, let's go this way. It feels like there's just constant ping pong back and forth. There are very, very few people who have veterinarians that get it right the first time, because they're humans and they make mistakes too. The relationship with your veterinarian is so important. And if a veterinarian ever makes you feel uncomfortable, or a tech or a groomer or anybody that's providing a service to your animal makes you feel uncomfortable, it's time to move on. And so I'm really glad that you made that decision for him.
I am too. I deliberated over it so much because it was getting to a point where I started doubting my own reality and the things that I was seeing in my dog. But because I don't have the medical degree, I felt like I didn't have the authority to question my doctor or ask them more pressing questions or even ask for a second opinion. I was really afraid that I might come off as like I was questioning somebody's authority. My issues with authority aside, I genuinely felt like I was doing something wrong by just asking questions to my veterinarian. I have learned now, since working with our current vets, that asking questions is not a bad thing. Advocating for your pets is something that you absolutely need to do because you are their voice. You are the person that lives with them the most. You are the first avenue to diagnosing anything that's wrong with your dog because you live with them. You are the vet's eyes and ears in your home, basically, because without you paying attention to your dog or even your cat, your veterinarian has nothing to work with. The thing with my old vet was that I feel like she had seen so many of the same issues over and over again. It was like you're hearing hoofbeats, you think horses. In this case, it was not really a zebra, but it wasn't really a horse either. When I was studying to be a medical school student, I heard that phrase thrown around a lot by MDs. If you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras. I was like, there's a whole range of animals that have hooves that you can think about before you reach zebras or horses. You know, the world is a bigger spectrum of gray than just black or white. It's not either or. It's not that your dog is either totally fine and you're making shit up, or there's something absolutely horribly, horrendously wrong with your dog and it's the worst case scenario.
I'm really glad that you kept advocating for him and that you stayed curious, because without it, you wouldn't have found a solution. Thank you for listening to your dog and yourself, because you wouldn't have gotten there any other way. Before we wrap up, I want to pause for something that we call answering the ask. This is where behavior stops being something to fix and starts being about communication. Can you share a moment where Loki's symptoms or behavior was an ask you hadn't fully heard before, and what shifted when you truly listened to him?
When I first adopted Loki, I was told that he was a very low energy dog, that it was just his personality. He wasn't like a regular husky. He didn't communicate. He didn't howl. He didn't do any of those things. But I started noticing that like he communicates a lot more with his body language than with his words, like regular huskies do. I noticed that if he started circling the door to the room that I would keep him in when I first got him, that was an indicator that he really needed to go out. Similarly, like once we started sleeping in the living room, if he started nosing my boots and circling the front door, that was an indication that he really needed to go out and relieve himself. He was a very communicative dog. It's just that I don't know if anybody in his past life actually took the chance to listen to what he was trying to say. I remember this moment very clearly. After we started treating his thyroid condition and he was starting to do much better, there was a day where I was running behind, I was eating breakfast. Loki was circling the door a couple of times and I wasn't looking where he was. Like I just kind of saw that he was moving around the living room and then he just pooped on the floor. And I was like, oh, that's when it connected. You communicate very clearly when you need to go out. I didn't take the time to listen. This was not a you thing. This was 100% failure on my part to listen to you communicating with me. The funny thing is now when he wants to go out, he will let me know with his words. He learned how to communicate vocally because I have a very vocal cat, and he watches everything that I do with her. And the greatest part is the things that they have both learned from each other, and watching him be more confident inside our household, asking for things in ways that are uniquely him, both vocally and non-verbally. Like when he wants water, I just got him a water fountain. So he'll just go like nose around the water fountain a little bit. And if he really needs it right now, he'll put his paw on there and he'll like tap it a couple times. If I have the door closed when I'm on a Zoom call or something and he wants to come in and sit with me, he'll very politely knock on the door like he's a human, and he'll wait for me to let him in. When he really wants to go out and I'm not getting ready fast enough, he'll start yelling at me, which is so cute because I remember when I got him 3 years ago, he was just the quietest little dog. And the way he continues to learn how to communicate with me evolves all the time. And I have come to appreciate that it's not just a one and done thing between us. I am constantly learning new things about my dog and learning new things about the way he talks to me and the way he asks for things. And it's just such a privilege to like get him to a point where he feels comfortable to ask me for things. He feels comfortable to tell me what to do.
Love that so much. It really, truly is a gift when our dogs trust us enough to say, this is how I'm feeling about this in this moment, or could you please get that ball, or I need more water. It really is such a beautiful relationship that we have with dogs. And truly, if we're listening the right way, might be with our eyes, not with our ears, we really can uncover new truths with our dogs. For our final question today, what would you want someone loving a dog with chronic stomach issues to remember right now?
Oh my gosh, there's so much. If I could go back to who I was 3 years ago when I got him, I would just say surround yourself with people. Even if they don't understand what you're going through, surround yourself with people. Don't be afraid to ask for help. I truly don't think I could have gotten through Loki's health issues if I didn't have other husky moms that I met on the internet. The internet is a horrible, horrible place sometimes, but in this particular case, it brought me 4 wonderful husky moms that rallied around me, and they brought me to a point where I was not alone. Maybe I was alone geographically, but I had a place to turn to when I was at my lowest. I had people that I could share things with. As soon as we got Loki's health issues diagnosed, they were the first people that I messaged and was like, we figured it out. We found out what was going on with Loki. And it was not just a win for me. It was a win for those 4 fantastic women who truly rallied around me. And then I found you and your podcast just around the same time. And so you were also a wonderful, great resource to have when we figured out what was going on with Loki.
Thank you so much. It truly was a journey to go through all of that with you and discuss all of the things that we did behind the scenes in regards to what you could try next and maybe some questions you could ask. And I'm so glad that you did find answers for him. And I remember when you called me and told me that it was a thyroid issue, and we were both just like, so much stuff makes sense now.
Yeah. Last year when we found out that it most likely is IBD that's causing his gut issues, and that more of the pieces of the puzzle started falling in place, and opting to manage his IBD with both medications and with diet has been such a game changer. Loki is very limited on what he can and cannot eat, but at least he has more freedom of choices now. I can give him all the salmon-based foods that he wants. Even if it is limited to that one protein, he has so many options. Finding a couple of tried and true brands has worked out so well dietarily. It has made sure that even the every once in a while breakthrough diarrhea that he gets is not chronic. I was warned by my doctor that the medication that he was going to be on is going to be a lifelong thing. So making sure that we're at the lowest possible dosage, which means that he could have a day or two of diarrhea every once in a while. And truly, it really has been a once in a while. We went from every 7 to 10 days or 7 to 15 days of diarrhea to maybe once in 6 months, which is so great, because I would rather wake up in the middle of the night once every 6 months rather than having to sleep in my outdoor coat in the hallway. There was so much that we went through. So much that I wish I could tell you. It doesn't even come close to the things that we have gone through and persevered, and we've come out the other end. And we can joke about it now. I'm $20,000 in debt because of this dog, and he's worth every penny.
They really are worth every single penny, and he's so lucky to have found you. Can you tell everybody where they can find you and how they can connect with you?
There are a couple places that you can find me. I started a husky focused group in Denver, Colorado. It's called Fueled by Huskies Denver on Instagram and Facebook. And you can also find me on my business page, Poppins Pet Sitting, spelled Pawpins, Pet Sitting.
There's something uniquely exhausting about loving a dog whose body feels unpredictable. It can make you feel like you're constantly behind, like you should have figured it out sooner, and like maybe you're the problem. But sometimes what looks like a sensitive stomach is a dog whose body just needs more attention, more adjustment, and more listening. And that doesn't mean that you failed. It means that you stayed, and staying matters. If you ever find yourself in a spiral of confusion around food, gut health, or what your dog actually needs, that's exactly why I created the Exploring Your Dog's Bowl quiz. The link's in the description whenever you're ready. So be kind, spread joy, and remember, sometimes the loudest behaviors start with the quietest discomfort. This episode is brought to you by Pet Matrix, the science-driven premium canine supplement company on a mission to help dogs thrive at every stage of life. Their advanced cell matrix delivery technology fuels wellness right at the cellular level, so your dog gets real results where it counts, just like mine have. With Move, you're supporting joints, bones, and recovery. With Think, you are helping calm the nervous system and sharpen focus. And with Protect, you're getting gut health and immunity. Don't sit on the sidelines when it comes to your dog's health. Jump into the Pet Matrix today and see the difference. Most dog parents aren't confused because they don't care. They're confused because the advice is overwhelming and contradictory. Picky eating, allergies, sensitive stomachs, too many choices, and no clear direction. That's why I created a short, free quiz called Exploring Your Dog's Bowl. You can find the link in the episode description. Stop guessing and start understanding what actually supports your dog. New episodes drop every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'll see you next time.